The knee-jerk reaction, what seems like common sense to everybody, is how can I get rich the fastest? What's the fastest way to get there? That's the cause of every financial failure. All wealth comes from compounding. It's a combination of obsession and long-term thinking. And most people haven't defined what they're actually after with money. It's this vague, just like, I want to be rich. Well, why? If you just want to be happy, that's very easy to do. But people want to be happier than other people. And that's a very difficult thing to do. What people think of passive income is I don't have to work to get this. And one of the most dangerous things that you can do is take your cues and get your advice from people who are playing a different game than you are. That's not what you actually wanted to begin with. At the lower levels, the more money you earn, the more that you can massively increase your happiness. If your income goes from $10,000 a year to $20,000 a year, you change your life completely. Different for everybody based off of their ambitions. But I think for a lot of people, once you own a house that has enough bedrooms for you and your kids, and you like the neighborhood that you live in, and you have good neighbors that you enjoy, and your car isn't breaking down, and you're eating healthy food, it's not that the money can't make you happier, but it diminishes quite quickly from there. A more important point, though, is I think for a lot of people, there is a net worth at which not only do you stop getting happier, but your life gets more complicated, and you start dealing with big existential questions of who am I and what do I do with this? And it becomes a social liability. There's a level at which your friends and your family are going to start asking you for money. You have such higher expectations of how do I raise kids without spoiling them and whatnot? There's all those questions, and that level of net worth is probably lower than people think. People should have a lot of ambition to have more money for independence. I think that should be the ultimate goal. It's not that money won't do anything for you and you should stop chasing it and enjoy being poor. It's not that in the slightest. You should want more for that reason. Everybody is talented in their own way, can be happy in their own way if they have independence. And it's actually very difficult to express that talent and to express who you are if you are completely beholden to somebody else's goals, metrics, incentives. So you can look at someone who's very wealthy and be like, well, look what they did. They started this business and they took a huge risk and they didn't do this. And here's their morning routine and all that. And for every one of those things, there are 1,000 other people who did something very similarly and failed. Half of the attributes of very successful people are actually liabilities to them. And so we can look at an entrepreneur and be like, oh, he wakes up at 3 a.m. and runs 20 miles. Yeah, but that's not why he's successful. That's just, he's a crazy person in general. And he has all these other crazy attributes. There's no cause and effect in that. It's not ambition necessarily for a greater material life or greater social status. It's ambition for independence. And so in that mental exercise, you understand the difference between utility and status, between what am I doing just to impress other people and what is actually making my life better. What you want out of this material possession is not just the price or the square footage or the things that you can measure like that. So much of it is just well, do you actually enjoy it? It's the intangible things of what you enjoy them for. The sense of ownership that comes with owning your house is a really good, fulfilling thing if you're in the phase of your life where you're ready for that. And the idea of people doing these calculations of oh, well, actually, if I bought, I would save $100 a month versus if I rent. This is not a spreadsheet endeavor. You should do it when you can afford it. But so much of it is just the value and stability that you want for you and your family. What people think of passive income is I don't have to work to get this. And anyone who's been a landlord realizes that could be a full-time job for doing it, or owning small businesses. The idea oh, you just buy them and collect the checks tends not to be the case. You understand this better than anybody. If you're investing in the stock market, the psychological price you can pay for the uncertainty and the volatility, or investing in somebody else's private equity fund, and the psychological price tag that you pay of dealing with that person, trusting that person, lack of trust with that person, the returns aren't coming in like you thought, you don't know when the returns are going to come in, that's a cost. And it's a different cost than driving to work and working 9 to 5 in a cubicle. Yeah. It's a different cost, but let's not pretend that it's not a cost, that you just give money to people and then the money just starts flowing back and you don't have to do anything for it. It's easy to underestimate the price tag of those things. I save a lot of money. Am I saving for a new house? No. Am I saving for retirement? Not necessarily. I'm saving for a world in which things are going to happen in the broader world and in my life personally that I can't foresee, that I am not thinking about today, and will have a major impact on my life. All history is a constant chain of surprises that nobody saw coming, that fundamentally shape the world, usually in bad ways. And the people who do okay over time are the people who have a conservative enough financial arrangement and mental flexibility to endure those episodes. I think if you wanted to create a common denominator of it, it's a combination of obsession and long-term thinking. It's a combination of like, these people don't obviously work 9 to 5s. They wake up thinking about their business. They go to bed thinking about their business. When they're playing baseball with their kids, they're thinking about work. It's the only thing that they can think about. I frame it this way. 99% of Warren Buffett's net worth, he's worth $100 billion. 99% of that came after his 60th birthday. That number doesn't compute, doesn't make sense in people's heads, because that's how compounding works. If he retired at age 60, when he was worth $1 billion, you would have never heard of him. The only reason he's successful and has gained so much wealth over time is because of how long he's been doing it for. It's because it's not just because he's a good investor, it's because he's been a good investor for 70 years. And most people don't have that kind of patience, whether they're an entrepreneur or just an individual investor. It's like, how can I make money fast? And if you try something new and it's not working out, you give it a month or maybe 6 months before you're like, this isn't working, I gotta move on to something else. When all of the big fortunes over time, whether it's from an entrepreneur or an investor, have come from people who are doing roughly the same thing for an inordinate amount of time. All wealth comes from compounding. And when most people think about compounding, they're like, well, how can I earn the highest returns? How can I earn the highest returns for the shortest period of time? And where most wealth actually comes from is like, how can I earn merely good returns for a very long period of time? That's where it tends to come from. So if you find someone who's very good at their job or very wealthy, the common denominator of those people tends to be they've been doing the same thing for 30 years or whatever it might be. And if anyone does the same thing every day for 30 years, of course you're going to get good at it. The knee-jerk reaction, what seems like common sense to everybody, is how can I get rich the fastest? It's just, what's the fastest way to get there? That's the cause of every financial failure. Trying to take something that naturally should take 10 or 20 or 30 years and being like, well, great, but I don't have the patience for that. How can I compress it as fast as I possibly can? And the idea of being patient is not intelligence, it's not education. That's purely just behavioral. There's some people who have no education that can be the most patient people in the world, and people who are extremely intelligent, who have the attention span of a fly. They can't keep it going. And I think it tends to be in finance that sometimes the smartest people are the most impatient. And because they want to use their intelligence and their IQ to be like, well, how can I speed this process up and get it as fast as I can? And that's the source of every blow up. I think about my parents. They have no financial education, but they did one thing, which is they dollar cost average into index funds, and they haven't sold anything for 40 years, ever. And if you compared their returns to professional fund managers, they're literally not, it's beyond top 1%. It's probably top 0.1% at this point that they've outperformed for doing nothing and for knowing nothing. Because all they had was all that you actually needed, was just like a profound sense of patience and leaving it alone. I feel like a lot of financial debates, when people are saying, you should do X, no, you should do Y, they're not actually disagreeing with each other. It's people with different goals and different time horizons talking over each other. And so much of the psychology of money is us looking in the mirror and being introspective into saying, who am I, what do I want, and what's the best path for me? And one of the most dangerous things that you can do is take your cues and get your advice from people who are playing a different game than you are. You have people who are chasing other people's dreams. And when it doesn't work, or if they get there, they realize they're not happy. It's like, yeah, because that wasn't your game. That's not what you actually wanted to begin with. There's a huge societal pressure that you're not rich enough, and even if you have money, you need to spend more of it. Your house isn't big enough, your car's not nice enough, your clothes aren't flashy enough. So even when you get the money, holding on to it is a completely different thing. And my definition of wealth is the money that you have not spent yet. That's what it is. It's the house you didn't buy, the cars you didn't buy. That's what wealth is. So earning money to begin with is very difficult for some people. And for those who do, like, holding on to it is a whole nother set of problems. When you frame it as earn money, save the difference, invest, and be patient, it's very, very simple. But the social pressures, like the math is not difficult. The social pressures pushing you away from that are enormous. And then I think for even the people who understand that basic equation, It's too simple for them to take seriously. If you look at that and say that's 90% of what you need to know, like, okay, but now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's start trading options. Like that's what's intellectually stimulating for them. And so that's where their mind goes, even if that's how you chop your fingers off in investing. So for some people, it's too simple. Health might be the same of like, eat a balanced diet, get some exercise and sleep 8 hours. It's not exciting for people, so they're not going to pay attention to it. So the truth is, it's just gonna be very difficult. A lot of it is just the social pressures. I mean, think of a world where everyone tomorrow is twice as rich. Everyone just magically, there's no inflation, but everyone's net worth doubles tomorrow. In that world, your expectations would double overnight too. Because you don't just want to be rich, you want to be richer than your neighbors. So as everyone else gets richer, their expectations inflate as well. And so even if everyone's making great decisions and saving money, and getting wealthier, what you actually want is to be richer than other people. And so no matter, even if we're all making great decisions and becoming richer, we're still gonna have that little bit of insecurity that's pushing us towards bad decisions. But most people, at their core, what they actually want from money is independence and autonomy. It's not that they want a big house and a flashy car and a private jet. They wanna wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever the hell I want today. Even if what they wanna do is go to work. They don't wanna be told by somebody else what to do. They don't want to have a boss or a banker telling them what to do and when to do it. They want to be independent and autonomous. But then the goal is like, okay, I want to build up a net worth that allows me to do that. Enough money so that I'm not beholden to other people's whims. And one way to think about it is that every dollar of savings that you have is a piece of your future that you own. It's a claim check on your time in the future. And you can flip that around and say every dollar of debt that you have is a piece of your future that somebody else owns. It's a claim check that they have on your time and your work in the future. Just that fundamental goal of like, that's what I'm after. And most people haven't defined what they're actually after with money. It's this vague, just like, I want to be rich. Well, why? And it seems like a dumb question because of like, oh, it seems great. You know, in the 1950s, for a lot of various reasons, there was not a lot of wealth inequality. The gap between rich and poor was much lower than it was before or since. And so most people looked at their neighbors and their coworkers and everyone else in their town and said, relative to that person, I'm doing pretty well. And I think what has happened over the last 80 years is that on average, our incomes have gone up, our net worths have gone up, our life expectancy has gone up, but so have everybody else's. And so our expectations have gone up by even more. So I think there's a lot of people for whom their income has doubled, but their expectations have tripled. Yeah. And they feel like they're worse off. And so that's a big problem with money. It's just like, if your expectations grow with your prosperity, you're never going to be happy. There's this great quote from the philosopher Montesquieu. He said this 300 years ago. He said, if you just want to be happy, that's very easy to do. But people want to be happier than other people. And that's a very difficult thing to do. And one of the reasons, he said, is because we think that other people are happier than they actually are. He said that 300 years ago, but now think what his social media has done to that. Where now when we're judging other people's prosperity and happiness, and you go on Instagram and look, it's all fake. It's all a curated highlight reel. Nobody posts on Instagram the vacation photo of their kids crying or fighting with their spouse. It's all the curated highlights, if not airbrushed highlights. And that inflates everybody else's expectations when they go on and they say, how come I'm not as beautiful, rich, and happy as they are? If someone says, here's the secret to getting rich, here's the path to getting rich, just follow these 3 steps. That's what people want to hear, that sense of certainty. Just tell me how to do it, tell me the formula. The truth is there's no formula. There are mindset ideas, there's psychological ideas, but everyone wants the drill sergeant that's just going to tell them exactly what to do and how to do it, because that seems like the easier path. If the secret to wealth is like this very vague and nebulous thing, it's not do this, do that, and step 3, you're rich. It just doesn't exist. I think whether it's an entrepreneur or an investor or a politician or an athlete, a common denominator that they have is just like this incredible belief in their own skills, that they can do it no matter how hard it's going to get, that they can do it themselves, that they can eventually get there. This like ridiculous confidence in their own ability to get done. The idea of like, if you believe in it, you can do it. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to get that. That's very different than the drill sergeant saying, do X, Y, and Z, and then step 3 is wealth. There is no formula for getting it done. Believe in yourself is a vague, nebulous concept, but everyone out there wants the hack. Everyone else wants the shortcut of follow these 3 steps, follow this simple trading algorithm, and you'll get rich tomorrow. But once you define why you actually want to get there, and it might be different for everyone, then I think a lot of these strategies clarify.